There's a lot of noise coming out of Las Vegas lately, and if you're a Raiders fan, you might want to pay close attention to this one because it's not the kind of news that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy about the team's direction. We're talking about Kolton Miller and Jakobi Meyers, the cornerstone players, who according to recent reports might not be getting contract extensions this offseason. Yeah, you heard that right. No new deals on the horizon for either of them at least not for now, and honestly that has me scratching my head. So here's what's going on. A recent article brought this issue into the spotlight, and if what's being said is accurate, the Raiders might be taking a wait-and-see approach with both players. When I first saw that headline, I thought, wait, what, the Raiders don't want to lock down Kolton Miller and Jakobi Meyers? That just didn't make sense to me. You've got the veterans who have proven they can play at a high level, who've shown commitment to the team, who've literally said they want to be Raiders for the long haul, and we're hesitating. Let's start with Kolton Miller. The guy has been a staple on that offensive line since 2018. He's been through the ups and downs, he's battled injuries, and he's still shown up and produced at a high level. Last year, despite coming off shoulder surgery, he allowed just 1 sack from week 6 through week 18. 1 sack. That's the kind of protection you dream about for your quarterback. And the Raiders just gave Geno Smith a 2-year extension before he even took a snap in the silver and black. So let me get this straight, you're willing to invest in the quarterback, but not the left tackle. Who's protecting his blind side? That's the part that really gets me. Because in the NFL, you can't afford to gamble with your offensive line. And Kolton Miller isn't just any left tackle. He's one of the top 15 in the league easily. He's been a team captain. He shows up for voluntary workouts. He's vocal about wanting to be a part of this team's future. So if the Raiders are building towards something, if this team really does have a long-term vision, then how is Kolton Miller not part of that? Apparently the holdup has to do with money. There's a belief that Miller wants to be paid like a top 10 tackle, which would put him somewhere in the $20 million to $23 million per year range. And honestly, that sounds fair to me. You look around the league at what guys like Dion Dawkins are getting, and Kolton is right there in that conversation. He's younger, he's consistent, and he's got the kind of leadership qualities you want in a franchise player. So if the price tag is high, that's because his value is high. And from what I'm hearing, the gap between what the Raiders want to pay and what Miller's camp is asking for is still pretty significant. But come on, is that really a reason to delay the deal? Now some folks are pointing to Charles Grant as the future at left tackle. He's the rookie they just brought in, and yes, he looked good in college. He had the highest Pro Football Focus grade of any offensive tackle entering the draft. But let's pump the brakes. This kid was playing at William & Mary. That's a long way from lining up against NFL edge rushers every Sunday. From what I've heard, Grant is still very raw. He showed flashes in minicamp and OTA letters, but the idea that he'll be ready to take over in 2026, that feels like a big leap. Betting on that kind of development timeline is risky, especially when you've already got a sure thing in Kolton Miller. And look, I get it. You want to develop talent, you want to have depth, and you want to keep cap flexibility. But sometimes you just have to make the smart football decision. And in this case, the smart move is locking down the guy who's already proven he can handle the job. The Raiders have the cap space. They're sitting with one of the top 10 salary cap positions in the league, $31-32 million depending on where you look. So the money is there. Why not get this deal done now before the price goes up even more next offseason? Let's also not overlook the message this sends to the rest of the locker room. When a guy like Kolton Miller shows up to voluntary workouts, leads by example, says all the right things, and still doesn't get rewarded, what kind of signal does that send? It tells your other veterans, hey, it doesn't matter how committed you are, we might still hesitate. And that's not the kind of culture you want to build if you're trying to turn this team into a perennial contender. You want players who buy in, you want leaders, and Kolton Miller is one of those guys. Not extending him now feels like a missed opportunity to reinforce the kind of values you claim to believe in. So yeah, when I hear that the plan is to wait and see how he performs in Chip Kelly's offense this year before making a decision, I can't help but feel a little frustrated. Because that sounds like an excuse. You've had 6 years of tape on Kolton Miller. You've seen what he brings to the table. You've seen how he plays when healthy. What more do you need to see? And this isn't just about Kolton. The same conversation is happening around Jakobi Meyers, and once again, I don't get it. This guy is coming off the best season of his career, over 1,000 receiving yards, 8 7 catches for touchdowns, and he did that with some of the worst quarterback play in the league. We're talking about a revolving door at quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo 8 on O'Connell, Gardner Minshew. None of these guys were exactly lighting it up. And yet Jacoby still put up numbers. That tells me everything I need to know about the kind of receiver he is. Jacoby isn't flashy. He's not a diva. He's not out there demanding trades or creating drama. He just shows up, does his job, and produces. And in a league full of wide receiver egos, that kind of consistency is rare. He's reliable. He runs crisp routes. He catches everything thrown his way. And most importantly, he wants to be a Raider. He's said it multiple times. He's shown up, put in the work, and embraced the identity of this team. So again, why are we hesitating? Some people think the Raiders are looking at the young receivers. They just brought in Jack Beck, Dante Thornton, Tommy Melletan, thinking maybe those guys can eventually fill Jacoby's role. Maybe they're being viewed as insurance policies in case Myers walks next year. And sure, it's smart to have depth. But if you think any of those guys are going to step in and immediately replace what Jacoby brings to this offense, I think you're being overly optimistic. Trey Tucker is another name that's come up in this conversation. And yes, he's looked good. He's taken a step forward. But there's a big difference between showing promise and being a proven number one option. Jacoby Myers is that guy. He's the player you want running alongside your quarterback when things get tough. He's your security blanket, your third down guy, your go-to route runner. Geno Smith is going to need someone he can trust, especially in a new system with new coaches and new expectations. That guy should be Jacoby. Now let's talk money again, because this is where it gets interesting. The projection floating around is that keeping Myers next year would cost somewhere between $17 to $18 million per season. That's a fair market rate for a top 30 receiver, which Jacoby absolutely is. So if you wait until next offseason to give him that extension, you're probably looking at a deal around 3 years. $58 million with about $35 million guaranteed. But here's the thing, you could actually save money by doing that deal now. If you extend him this summer, tie him to Geno Smith for the next 2 or 3 seasons, you avoid the bidding war and the inflated price tag that comes with hitting the open market. This is where it gets really confusing to me, because the logic doesn't add up. You're saying you want to see how the offense looks before committing. You're saying you might extend him next offseason, but by then it's going to cost more. And if he has another big year, which he probably will with better quarterback play, his value is only going to rise. That's just simple math. I look at what the Raiders did with other players in past seasons, guys like Robert Spill and Trevin Moehrig, and I think, man, they missed the window to lock those guys down early. Don't repeat that mistake with Kolton Miller and Jacoby Myers. These aren't question marks. These are answers. Proven talents who want to be here, who elevate your team, who fit your timeline. You're telling me you're trying to win now that you're building toward a deep playoff push in the next 2 to 3 years, and yet you're not locking down 2 of your most important players. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't align with the rest of what the team has done this offseason. Everything else has been smart, calculated, forward thinking. Extending Geno, bringing in Pete Carroll, building around Max Crosby, those were moves that signaled a vision. So how do Kolton Miller and Jacoby Myers not fit into that same plan? They're both in their prime. They're both leaders, and they've both made it clear they want to be Raiders. What more could you ask for? And here's the real kicker: if both Kolton Miller and Jacoby Myers go out this year and have the type of seasons we know they're capable of, and if the Raiders still don't lock them down before they hit the open market, they're going to be in for a rude awakening. Because once a player hits free agency, it's no longer just about your team's desire to keep them. It becomes a bidding war. It becomes about other franchises with deeper pockets or more desperate needs coming in and offering bigger contracts. And suddenly you've got to overpay just to hold onto talent you already had in your building. This isn't speculation. We've seen it happen time and time again in this league. Teams think they can wait until the offseason, that they'll have the upper hand when it comes to negotiations. And then boom, some other organization swoops and throws down the bag and your guy is gone. That's what makes this entire situation so frustrating. Because it feels avoidable. It feels like something that could be handled right now with a few smart decisions and some commitment from the front office. And let's not forget, this is the same franchise that traded for Geno Smith and handed him an extension before he took a single snap. So clearly they're not afraid to make early commitments. When they believe in a guy, clearly they're willing to take calculated risks on veterans they view as essential to the team's success. So why is Kolton Miller, the guy who protects that quarterback's blind side, not getting the same treatment? Why is Jacoby Myers, arguably the most reliable wideout on the roster, being asked to prove himself all over again? It's not just about production either. It's about chemistry, continuity, stability. When you bring in a new quarterback, you want to surround him with familiar, trustworthy weapons. You want a clean pocket. You want wide receivers who run precise routes, who know how to adjust mid-play, who can bail out the quarterback when the protection breaks down. That's what Colton and Jacoby offer. That's what they've already shown they can do. And we've already seen what happens when you don't prioritize those things. Just look back at the chaos the Raiders went through last season. Constant rotation at quarterback, inconsistent line play, struggles getting the ball to receivers. It was disjointed. It lacked rhythm. You can't build a successful offense that way. You need foundational pieces. And the idea that the front office might not be fully committed to keeping two of its most critical offensive pieces, that's the kind of move that can set your rebuild back years. You can develop as many young receivers as you want. You can draft all the offensive line prospects in the world. But there's a learning curve in the NFL. Rookies rarely come in and dominate from day one. You need veterans to bridge that gap. You need leaders who can set the tone both on the field and in the locker room. And that's exactly who Colton Miller and Jacoby Myers are. Colton isn't just a good player, he's a culture guy. He's respected by his teammates. He's been through the worst of it and come out stronger. He's a steadying presence in that offensive line room. And when your team is trying to find an identity, trying to establish a winning mindset, guys like that are invaluable. Jacoby is the same way. Quiet worker, ultra consistent. A guy who earns respect by showing up and doing the job right every single day. What message are you sending to the rest of your roster if you let those kinds of players walk? What are you telling the young guys you just drafted, that loyalty doesn't matter, that production and commitment won't be rewarded? Because that's how you start to lose a locker room. That's how you start to erode trust between players and management. And from a financial standpoint, this whole thing still doesn't make much sense. You have the money now. You're not in a cap crunch. You've got room to maneuver. So what exactly are you waiting for if the idea is to evaluate these guys during the season? Well, you already know what they can do. There's no mystery here. They've already proven themselves year after year. And every day you wait, the price goes up. Let's say Jacoby Myers does exactly what he did last year, typeless catches over 1,000 yards and more touchdowns, and he does it with a better quarterback throwing him the ball. His value shoots up. Let's say Colton Miller stays healthy, plays all 17 games, and continues to give you top-tier left tackle play. You're not going to get them cheaper next spring. You're going to pay more. That's a guarantee. And what if they don't want to wait? What if after another strong season they decide they'd rather test the market? What if they feel disrespected by the lack of urgency from the Raiders? That's not just a hypothetical. That's a very real possibility, because players talk, agents talk, and loyalty only goes so far in a business like this. If you don't show your guys that you believe in them, someone else will. It just feels like the Raiders are trying to have it both ways. They want to say they're committed to building a contender. They want to talk about the future and all the young talent they're bringing in. But they're not backing that up by locking in the guys who are supposed to lead the way. It's like they're hoping they can keep everyone happy without making any tough financial decisions, but that's not how it works. At some point, you have to put your money where your mouth is. And look, I'm not saying you throw reckless contracts around. I'm not saying you overpay just to keep everyone in-house. But Colton Miller and Jacoby Myers aren't just guys. They're not replaceable role players. They're key components of what you're trying to build. And when you find players like that, players who produce, who lead, who want to be part of your culture, you don't hesitate. You lock them in, because if you don't, you're rolling the dice. You're hoping that Charles Grant develops faster than expected. You're hoping that Trey Tucker becomes a #1 receiver. You're hoping that this offense can thrive in a new system with a revolving cast of characters, and that's just not a bet I'd be comfortable making. We've seen what happens when teams let core players walk. It rarely ends well. Continuity matters. Chemistry matters. And if you want Geno Smith to succeed, if you want Pete Carroll's system to work, if you want to give this team the best possible shot at competing in the next 2 to 3 years, then Colton Miller and Jacoby Myers need to be part of that equation. So to the Raiders front office, I'll say this: do the smart thing. Do the right thing. Show your team that you believe in them. Show your fans that you're serious about building a winner. Lock down your cornerstone players. Lock down Colton Miller. Lock down Jacoby Myers. Because the longer you wait, the more you risk losing them. And if that happens, you're not just losing talent. You're losing leadership. You're losing identity. And that's a price no team can afford to pay. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are swirling around the Raiders camp, stirring excitement and speculation among fans and analysts alike. Rumors suggest that the team could be on the verge of a major shakeup, potentially welcoming some high-profile names like Jonathan Bullard, Jordan Whitehead, and Keenan Allen. If these whispers turn into reality, it could signal a significant boost for both the Raiders' offense and defense, sparking a new wave of optimism for their upcoming season. Jonathan Bullard, known for his relentless pressure on opposing quarterbacks and ability to disrupt plays in the backfield, would be a formidable addition to the Raiders' defensive line. His experience and tenacity could provide the kind of edge the defense has been craving. Meanwhile, Jordan Whitehead, a versatile safety recognized for his speed and tackling prowess, might fill a crucial gap in the secondary. His knack for reading offenses and making pivotal plays could elevate the Raiders' defensive backfield to a new level. On the offensive side, the name Keenan Allen has been quietly linked to the Raiders in various circles. Allen, an exceptional wide receiver with sharp route running skills and reliable hands, would be a dream target for any quarterback. His presence could open up the field, creating more opportunities for big plays and providing a steady offensive threat week after week. The addition of a player with his caliber would certainly change the dynamic of the Raiders' aerial attack. Together, these potential signings hint at a team not only looking to patch holes, but aiming to build a balanced, formidable squad. The combination of a reinforced defense and a sharper offense could be exactly what the Raiders need to climb the ranks and make a serious playoff push. Of course, nothing is set in stone yet, but the buzz is undeniable, with insiders hinting that talks are progressing, and the Raiders' front office is eager to make bold moves. As the offseason unfolds, all eyes will be on how these rumors develop. Could Jonathan Bullard, Jordan Whitehead, and Keenan Allen really be stepping into Raider Nation? If so, fans might soon witness a transformed team ready to make some serious noise in the league. Until then, the speculation continues, fueling hope and conversation among the Raiders faithful. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.